I found this kind of humorous and also expected. But somebody asked Merrick Garland today, just about an hour ago, point blank, what he thought about the release of Tucker Carlson's videos of what transpired on January 6th, 2021. Let's listen to this.
The January 6th investigation is the largest in the history of the department. On television last night, one program aired some video and characterized it as sightseeing by a bunch of people coming into the Capitol who revered it. You've seen some of that video. What's your reaction to that?
So I don't want to comment on any particular reports. I think all Americans saw what happened on January 6th, and most of us saw it as it was happening. It was a violent attack on a fundamental tenet of American democracy, that power is peacefully transferred from one administration to another. Over 100 officers were assaulted on that day. 5 officers died. We have charged more than 1,000 people with their crimes on that day, and more than 500 have already been convicted. I think it's very clear what happened on January 6th.
Okay, when you leave out the details, when you say 5 officers died, but leave out the details, you leave people to assume that they were killed by the protesters. But the truth is, which I'll show you in a second, is one of them died from natural causes, a heart attack, and the other 4 he's talking about all died by committing suicide after the protest.
More than 100 days after this silent tribute marking the death of U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, D.C.'s chief medical examiner said Sicknick died of natural causes, suffering 2 strokes the night after the insurrection. The medical examiner first told the Washington Post Sicknick had no evidence of internal or external injuries, and there was no evidence the 42-year-old suffered allergic reactions to chemical irritants like bear spray.
And the other 4 officers he mentioned, in regards to the 5, all died of suicide a few days after, and then weeks, and I think the 4th one was a month or 2 after the riots. But they never gave the details of their suicide, just the fact that they committed suicide. But with many other suicides that transpire throughout America, when the news reports it, they give the details of how they went about committing the suicide. So that is up for speculation on your own. But I also couldn't find any police officers that committed suicide after all the BLM riots or Antifa riots that went on throughout the nation around the United States of America. But I just wanted to put this in there because of after what Garland said, it would leave people to assume that these 5 officers were killed by the protesters. They were not. So it's only been 16 hours, right here you can see that, since Tucker Carlson released this footage from January 6, 2021, that shows a very different story, as we're going to play that clip in a second, where the police are escorting this horned guy, the shaman they're calling him, throughout the Capitol building. And at one time, he's surrounded by up to 9 police, within touching distance of him. But every single news outlet out there is going to be speaking of this and showing these videos. And Tucker Carlson has 40,000 more hours of video to go through to bring to you, to show you things that the other side of the aisle most likely didn't want you to see. We're going to play a clip right here, and it'll probably help you understand why Merrick Garland did not want to speak in regards to why the Capitol Police were escorting this guy around the building.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
So this one shot, this one aspect of the video where you could actually count the officers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and he's right in the middle of them, surrounded by him. They just let him walk on by, and it don't look like they're too awfully busy at this point in time. They could have taken this guy down, easy peasy, but they let him just walk around till they got him to where they wanted him to be, and all the other mainstream media didn't show this video to the American public. So I'm looking forward to what else Tucker Carlson comes out with to give us a clearer picture of what transpired the day of January 6, 2021. Now, I wanted to end this video to show you how certain people can take a statement that somebody made and either add to it or take away from it that changes the whole statement, and then they try to look at you and say you're a fool. Well, Tucker Carlson came out and he basically said this: upwards of 20 unindicted co-conspirators in the Oath Keeper indictments, all playing various roles in the conspiracy, who have not been charged for virtually the exact same activities. Now, pay attention. He says, who have not been charged. And this guy that responds to him over here, he says, okay, well, how can these people been charged for something and then not indicted? Oh, Tucker Carlson's a nut job. But the thing is, Tucker Carlson said have not been charged, as we can see right here. Have not been charged. So listen to this closely, and then listen to the response by Frank Figliuzzi.
To our audience, a reminder, Frank Figliuzzi is the author of a book called The FBI Way. He is the host of a podcast called The Bureau. So I've been fixing to get his opinion on the following all week. Frank, I'm going to play this clip for you. This was Tucker Carlson on Fox News Tuesday night. We'll discuss on the other side.
So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, according to government documents. And those two are not alone. In all, Revolver News reported that there are, quote, upwards of 20 unindicted co-conspirators in the Oath Keeper indictments, all playing various roles in the conspiracy, who have not been charged for virtually the exact same activities, and in some cases, much, much more severe activities, as those named alongside them in the indictments. Huh? So it turns out that this white supremacist insurrection was, again, by the government's own admission in these documents, organized at least in part by government agents.
Frank, it's all yours. Over to you.
Well, Tucker can
to pick one or two of two choices. He can plead total ignorance of what unindicted co-conspirator means, or he could admit that he's trying to deceive the public. It's one or the other, maybe both. That's not what unindicted co-conspirator means. And in fact, if there were FBI operatives inside the crowd and they would never be charged as unindicted co-conspirators, this makes absolutely no sense. But I'll tell you what does make sense, Brian. We've learned just today through MSNBC and NBC News reporting that at least one of the defendants in the January 6th case has been asked by FBI agents, do you know anyone in Congress? And so now when you put those two things together, there's some interest in the GOP and Congress spreading this disinformation that it was the FBI who did all of this on January 6th. Why? Because just maybe, the FBI is looking at them.